found an unconscious baby who was later declared to have died. I won't read much more of the detail. We've seen it sadly before, and I think sadly we'll see it again. But let's talk about it with Zoe Gardner, independent migration policy researcher. Zoe, there is so much talk, isn't there, about stopping the boats, breaking up the gangs, and yet these boats keep coming and people keep dying.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on to speak about this, Sheila. I'm sure that your listeners will be devastated by this, especially anyone of them who may be mothers or fathers, to think of a helpless child losing their life in those freezing waters it's truly devastating every time it happens. And unfortunately, it's happening not less and less, but more and more. And we have essentially decided as a country that we accept this. And I have to say that, even though I don't want to accept it, and I'm sure you don't, and I'm sure your listeners don't want to accept it, but it's true that as a political strategy, we've accepted these deaths as the cost of the so-called deterrence that is so necessary. It is so necessary to keep these people out that the death of these children and these babies is worth the cost.
What would an alternative look like, in your view?
Well, we've seen an alternative and how it worked. There are so many Ukrainian children and men and women who have been killed by Putin's vile aggression, but not one Ukrainian child has had to risk their life or has drowned or has died taking a boat across the channel. And the reason for that is that we allowed them a safe way to travel here. And when they arrived here, we provided them with safe housing, access to the welfare state, and access to the job market. We protected 200,000 Ukrainians that way. 27,000 people have made the crossing on boats this year. So we protected many, many times more people by offering them a safe way to get here. If we could do that for Ukrainians, why could we not do it for this baby? Why did this baby not deserve a safe way to cross to the UK?
Why do you think?
Well, I think that there's the short and sweet, tempting answer to say this baby is considered a Muslim baby, this baby is considered a brown or black-skinned baby. And it's easy to see that the white-skinned Christian, supposed Ukrainians have been given a route into this country, but I don't think that's enough.
There are plenty of black Christians, brown Christians, leaving very difficult places in, for example, sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah.
I don't think that's enough to explain it. I think what's really happened is that over time, this has happened bit by bit by bit. It was not normal a couple of years ago that week in and week out, and it really has been every couple of weeks in the last month, as you said, that people are drowning and that children in particular are drowning. That wasn't normal before. It was more rare. It's crept up on us, and we have got to a point where we have decided to allow it. That's why I say we allow it. That's why we say we permit it. That's why I say that this is our policy. We have got here slowly. Back in 2015, I don't know if your listeners will remember, there was a photograph of a small boy who was washed up on a Greek beach. Aylan Kurdi. And 100,000 people got out on the streets that week and marched behind a banner that said refugees welcome. And we demanded that our government put in place a safe route for Syrians to reach the UK. And they temporarily did. And it made a very big and important difference. But today we hear about a baby drowning on our own shores, not even in Greece. And we have become desensitized. And it happens bit by bit.
You use the word allow in the way that we didn't allow for so many Ukrainian children to die. We are allowing this to happen. To reflect your language back to you, is in this scenario, are the traffickers Putin, if you see what I mean? So, the traffickers and the desperation in the countries, not Britain's fault, the traffickers, not Britain's fault, not Britain's choice. So are they almost the pressure, the enemy that we need to offer respite from, rescue from, in the way that we offered rescue from that Putin-led war in Ukraine?
I don't think so, no. They don't play the same role. The people who are putting people on boats and making money out of this are obviously despicable, but they are not causing people to take the journey. You know, Putin's bombs have hit Ukraine. They've also hit Syria. There are still Syrians across Europe. Syria is still the number one nationality of person seeking asylum. Here in the UK, it's Afghanistan. The Afghans are fleeing the Taliban. The Syrians are fleeing Assad and Putin. And the traffickers and the smugglers, they just play a role to facilitate that because we have not allowed people safe passage. The only reason Ukrainians didn't have to use those smugglers is because we allowed them safe passage. So I don't think the smugglers are Putin. The smugglers are a reaction to, a creation of our border policies.
Evil opportunists.
Yes, they are evil opportunists, but they are necessary for people to escape from real danger that they are escaping from in those countries. And they will not disappear. If we arrest one, another one will be there to take their place, because the need is real. And we need to recognize that that need is real. And I just want to say one more thing that's really important on this, because you and I are talking about this from a perspective of compassion and kindness. And I think that reflects most people in this country. But I want to make really clear what's not on the other side of that. On the other side, we don't have to give anything up. It is right and compassionate and kind to help people, but we won't lose anything. We're not having to share the little that we have, because people are afraid of that, and people are struggling in this country, and they don't want to think, even if they care that these people are dying, they don't want to think that they have to give up the little they have to share with them. That's not what needs to happen. We need migration to this country, and we can benefit hugely from migration to this country if we set up our migration system in a way that reflects the fact that some people need to come here, and works with that reality in order to meet our needs as a society as well. So we don't have to give anything up.
Do you think we are not doing that? And clearly, you know, the new Labour government is not doing that. You know, there isn't a massive difference yet. I mean, obviously the Rwanda scheme being scrapped is a difference, but the same problems are being faced, the same solutions are going to have to be found, or to which solutions are going to have to be found. Is the reason we're not doing that because politically parties have decided it's just too sensitive, too risky, too much trouble?
Yeah. Ultimately, that baby's life and the life of all the other people who have to risk them in the channel is worth less on the balance of a really bad headline in the Daily Mail. A really, really bad headline that says Labour's going to let them in if we offer them a safe route.
Well, the Mail will say that, whatever.
The Mail will say that, whatever. The Mail's already claiming that we have open borders while this happens. So Labour has nothing to lose and everything to gain. We go out, as I say, and actively recruit for migrants to come to this country because we need them so badly. And yet we create such deadly borders that children die because those are the wrong ones. This can be fixed. Labour needs to be brave enough to fix it. That one child should be enough for any Labour politician with a soul to stand up about this and say, we're going to change the way we manage this.
And they won't be.
No, it won't be. And the next one won't be either. And the one after that won't be either. So we have to decide for ourselves as the country, where will we draw the line? Where will we say we don't allow it anymore?